I love when my guests are right. I don't want people to lose money, but I do love when people come up with smart theses and they are actually right. But, you know, Gordon, I almost wish you were a little more, I don't want to say in the game because you're very much in the game, a little closer to current levels. Like, had you said this is $100 stock, you know, it did dip down to 101 bucks at one point, but then everybody bought it. It's closer to $200. To say 25 bucks, I mean, just feels so far away. So, because you and I have spoken before, I prepared mentally for you to say, they're not delivering as many cars as they produce, said Gordon Johnson every time he comes on.
In today's video, we will be dining on a large serving of barbecued clown. It's finally happened. Gordon, the class clown Johnson, has been put in his place live on air in the finance media, and it is delicious.
All right, it's time to spotlight EVs, and let's welcome in our guest, Gordon Johnson, CEO, founder, GLJ Research. Thank you for being with us. You've been on with us for years, and people who don't know, you are a notorious bear when it comes to Tesla. Tesla came out with its quarterly numbers. In fact, these were records. The China sales, second best ever for wholesale numbers in March. But what say you? I know you didn't like something. Tell us.
So credit where it's due. Excellent setup by Nicole, the anchor here. Hey Gordon, Tesla just crushed it. Record production, record deliveries, but obviously you're a perma bear, so please explain why this was actually a disaster for Tesla. The competition's coming and you should be short the stock. Of course, Nicole's right. There's no question. Gordon's going to have something negative to say about Tesla's quarterly production and deliveries. Oh, and by the way, if you guys would like to hear my actual real thoughts, what I really think is going on with Gordon Johnson, why he says what he says, you'll find those over on Patreon. I've just posted a very in-depth Tesla-only Q&A, all sorts of topics, including why Gordon says what he says. If you're not a member, you can join Patreon with the card in the corner or the link in the pinned comment.
Yeah, hey, Nicole. Thanks for having me. Good to see you. You look great. I don't see us as a perma bears or bears. I just see us as realists. Listen, so the numbers started out in the quarter. The street estimate started out around 438. It came down to around 430. They did roughly 423. The issue is very simple. They produced 440,000 cars. They sold 423,000 cars.
Well, what do you know? Gordon Johnson with a truly ridiculous argument. So ridiculous and more importantly, so predictable that some guy on the internet actually debunked it before Gordon Johnson said it. Wait, what? Just listen. And we can see here almost twice as much production of S and X versus deliveries. Again, Tesla pointing out because they're in transit. Again, I've mentioned this in the past, but it's important to understand that vehicles do not get produced at the Tesla factory and out the other end of the factory when they're finished, end up in a customer's driveway. They actually need to be transported to customers. And if those customers aren't on the same continent that the vehicles were produced, you're going to have a long wait time as these things can't instantly go from one continent to another. Every single quarter that there's a reasonable gap between Tesla production and deliveries, the Tesla Q dolts come out of the woodwork. Oh my God, look, they didn't sell all that big. Oh, look, that's a problem. No demand. It does embarrass me to have to point this out repeatedly, but every fucking quarter, the same story. These dingbats assume if they didn't deliver the exact same number of vehicles they produced in the quarter, it's obviously and only down to one thing, no demand, as opposed to vehicles still being in transit. Look at the trend over the long term, okay? Because this is important. Every quarter, people fixate. Oh my God, bro, I don't understand. There's too much inventory. There's a problem. There's no demand. Oh my God. If we zoom out a little bit, like in this example, we're looking at 2016 in Q2 all the way up to 2023 in Q1. Tesla's continued to produce and sell more vehicles. I think what I'm trying to say is perspective really matters. Well, that's awkward for Gordon. Now, Mr. Johnson, please, bro. Maybe a little bit less time in the gym and a little bit more time working on your arguments, because it's really embarrassing to have one of your points, your first point, your opening point, debunked ahead of time by some idiot on the internet who knew exactly what you were going to say and already had explained why it made no fucking sense.
They're producing more cars than they're selling, and this is the record fourth straight quarter in a row that they've produced more cars than they're selling, despite margin slashing price cuts, which we think are going to render their actual results in Q1 much worse than what the street is modeling. So that's the fundamental issue. And keep in mind, their factories are operating, two factories at 20 to 40% utilization, and they shut down the Shanghai factory multiple times. They just can't sell what they're producing.
Okay. So, because you...
Gordon seems rather proud of himself. An audible chuckle on air. Haha, got him again with that dumb shit about the deliveries and production. No one's going to figure out that they take time to get delivered to customers. That's why there's a gap. Got to get some better material, dude. The only people believing what Gordon's saying right now, and I literally mean this, are the people who think it's a good idea to be shorting Tesla stock. And they'll believe anything that anyone says that sounds negative. They have such extreme confirmation bias and emotional blinders on that they can't see reality. As I mentioned, however, if you really want to know why I believe Gordon says what he says, head over to Patreon. My Tesla-only Q&A will provide a few answers as to why he's so proud of himself, why he continues to say ridiculous things and not care.
Okay, so because you and I have spoken before, I prepared mentally for you to say they're not delivering as many cars as they produce.
Oh shit, she's calling him out. This is amazing. I don't watch these clips before I react so you can get the real-time reaction. Even Nicole knew that he'd come up with this ridiculous fucking argument. We just saw me debunking it ahead of time. Even Nicole knew he'd say this and that it makes no fucking sense, and she's calling him out on air. I love this. Of course, Gordon will respond by lighting 12 other fires about irrelevant points and redirecting the conversation and not admitting that what he said not only didn't make sense, but was extremely predictable.
I prepared mentally for you to say they're not delivering as many cars as they produce, said Gordon Johnson every time he comes on. So I looked at the 2022 production and deliveries. They weren't that far off from each other. You tell me, okay? I know you study this every day. Deliveries were 1.313 million and production was 1.369 million. Okay, so I know there were more produced than delivered, but not that much more. And it's my understanding demand is still very prevalent for Teslas.
Yeah, so Nicole, just think about it, right? Let's say you're going to go buy a Porsche and the price is $100,000 and they cut the price by 20%, which is, we believe the average price cut for Tesla this quarter is around 15%.
Well, once again, I have predicted the behavior of this NPC ahead of time. Instant redirect. Instead of addressing the valid criticism that he's full of shit, his argument makes no sense. He's just moved the goalposts. He's now talking about price cuts. And of course, I know where this is going. Well, they cut prices, therefore they should have sold every single vehicle they produced this quarter and they should be selling more vehicles, but they haven't. Oh, by the way, their factories aren't already at full capacity, therefore no demand. I think I might just continue to make predictions about what he's going to say in the next sentence ahead of time throughout this video. My accuracy won't be 100%, but it's probably going to be at least 69%. This guy's just so predictable.
The demand response will be massive. It's called elasticity of demand. When you cut price, the demand is supposed to at least match the price cut. They've cut prices roughly 15% in the first quarter. The deliveries are up just roughly 4%. So you can't look backwards. You have to look forward, given all this competition coming. Yeah. So the fact that the demand response isn't matching the price cut, despite the fact that their plants aren't running at full utilization.
God damn, I'm good. Actually, I'm not. Even a moron could predict what he was about to say. But you see that? Even the plants aren't at full capacity. Shit.
This is just a car company that is engaging in margin slashing price cuts. We believe they're going to have to cut prices again imminently. And we think that's going to result in significantly lower margins. It's just a car company that's having to compete. And given what we think the earnings are going to be this year, it's trading at 100 times forward earnings when the industry trades at 6 times. Look, we think there's significant downside.
Where's your price target these days for Tesla?
$24.33 end of this year. We think it gets there. We think when they report Q1 earnings, I think a lot of analysts are going to have to take a good long look in the mirror and realize this isn't a margin-leading company. They were ranked dead last in FSD. They're buying batteries from Panasonic. The 4680 battery promises they made at Battery Day, we now know were a bunch of myths truth. FSD, again, they ranked dead last, and I think if you look at the videos of it, I don't know how else to say it. It looks like it's just not meeting expectations. And, you know, they're getting their lunch taken in both China and the U.S. as well as Europe by VW. China, BYD, U.S. Ford, BYD in China, VW in Europe. So they're just facing a lot of problems.
The ratio of ums to actual words as part of Gordon's argument there was about 50-50. Seems a little bit flustered. Maybe he's not used to being called out for his NPC behavior. That was a very long-winded way for Gordon to say the competition is coming. As we saw recently, GM delivered 2 Hummer EVs in the first quarter of 2023. A little under 1,000 Cadillac Lyrics. Ford produced a whopping 10,000 electric vehicles in the entire first quarter, as opposed to Tesla's 420-odd thousand. Does it seem like the competition's coming? Does it seem like they're eating Tesla's lunch? 10,000 electric vehicles for Ford, 20,000 from GM versus Tesla's 420,000. Tesla China wholesale numbers just out. Almost 90,000 vehicles produced in Shanghai in March. So, this one is not going well for Gordon.
You know, Gordon, I almost wish you were a little more, I don't want to say in the game because you're very much in the game, a little closer to current levels. Like, had you said this is $100 stock, you know, it did dip down to 101 bucks at one point, but then everybody bought it. It's closer to $200. To say 25 bucks, I mean, just feels so far away, and it hasn't been anywhere near. We've had you on the show many, many times. I love chatting with you. I'm waiting to see. I love when my guests are right. I don't want people to lose money, but I do love when people come up with smart theses and they are actually right. But
dude, this is a full-blown assassination. Nicole has just murdered Gordon on air. She's just ribbing him about the absurdity of his price targets, his consistent track record of being dead f***ing wrong. Let's just rewind, because if we read between the lines, listen to this last clip once again.
I love when my guests are right. I don't want people to lose money, but I do love when people come up with smart theses and they are actually right. But
I love when my guests are right, as opposed to you. I love when they come up with a smart thesis, as opposed to your idiotic comments. And then there's a big but. But Gordon, bro, you've been permanently bearish on this company, completely wrong, and none of your arguments have ever made sense. But we continue to invite you back in the hope that you'll actually bring something useful to the table, but you're not delivering the goods. Gordon, we may have to put you in the naughty corner. We're unsure if you're actually serious about what you say. This is amazing to see. I love the fact that Nicole's just calling him out in the most polite way possible. But if you read between the lines, the message is rather clear. I
haven't seen you be right about this big sell-off. I guess we're waiting on it. I mean, the Berlin factory and the Gigafactory in Texas both came on board in 2022. And both of those factories, supposedly, are going to continue to help it. And that it's not just a car company, that in fact, it's a battery company and, all kinds of other energy and all that. I don't know. Let's move on. In the meantime, what about a name like Rivian? Now, so when Tesla's producing, let's say, 1.8 million this year, you have Rivian that's shooting for 50,000. Tell me about do you like Rivian?
When you think about a stock like Rivian, it's valued at roughly 28%, looking at market cap, of Honda. Rivian, just like Tesla, is producing more cars than they're selling. They're not even, and by the way, they produce less than 10,000 cars. Their guidance is 50,000 for this year. They sold around 8,000 cars. So they're producing less than they're selling, yet they're valued at 28% the value of Honda. Honda sells 2.2 million cars per year. So you're going to have margin degradation at Rivian as well. We think Tesla and Rivian are going to have to engage in price cuts. And keep in mind, Tesla had a horrendous quarter with respect to the Model S and the X, the high-end luxury EVs. That's Rivian's core constituency of customers. So we think they're going to have even bigger issues than Tesla. We think the valuation is aggressive. They're valued at nearly a third of Honda, despite the fact that Honda sells 2.2 million cars a year profitably. They sell, they're targeting 50,000 cars a year unprofitably.
What's your price target on Rivian? By the way, Li Auto, Ni, and XPeng had some strong numbers too. What's your price target on Rivian, which right now is at 15 bucks? And by the way, Amazon has a fleet of Rivians. I know we have the Hertz deal with Tesla, but I'll give you something on this. So, and there's a lot of people who really love the Rivian pickup truck. It's at around $15 today. What's your Rivian price target?
We don't have a price target on Rivian. We don't officially cover it. We do have a model, but I'll just say that I think that it's significantly lower.
10 seconds. Do you have one you love and you think is going higher in the world of EVs?
We've always said we like BYD. We agree with Warren Buffett, even though he sold a lot of shares recently. And when you say one quick thing, when you say Tesla's a battery company, that's just not true. They're not a battery company. They're buying batteries from Panasonic, CATL, 4680 battery. It's actually worse on density than the existing battery structures. So they're missing the boat there. So we think Tesla has issues. And with respect to Rivian being valued at a third the value of Honda, I just think that's a bit rich.
Okay, I haven't seen the batteries from Tesla myself, so I don't disagree with you. I mean, that's supposedly what's happening, I guess, in the years ahead. Gordon, nice to see you as always. Thanks for being on the show. Gordon Johnson, GLJ Research.
Well, I've got to say, it was nice to see this clown put in his place. I'm sure he'll be back, and I'm sure his arguments will be as predictable as ever. Like I said, if you want to know what I really think about why Gordon says what he says, it's true underlying motivation, head over to Patreon and check out the latest exclusive video, the Tesla only Q&A. I think Gordon's going to be around for many years to come. Now I've got to admit, I kind of feel a little bit bad for Gordon. I don't think he was expecting to get absolutely eviscerated by Nicole and have his absurd arguments called out ahead of time and mocked on air. But we have just witnessed exactly that. And boy, was it delicious. After Gordon's 420th appearance in the finance media, he's finally been called out by Nicole. Hey Gordon, last time you were here, you told us the dog ate your homework. And the time before, you said the dog ate your homework. I don't think the dog is eating your homework. In fact, I think you are full of shit. It's hard to take you seriously with such ridiculous arguments, Gordon. Please try harder. And don't worry, Gordon, I'm not just here to roast. I have a helpful suggestion. If only you'll heed my warning. I suggest taking a couple of weeks off, grabbing yourself some Athletic Greens AG1 and spending a little bit more time working on and refining your bearish arguments, at least to the point where they almost sound like they make sense. In fact, I'll be happy to sponsor Gordon's first full year on Athletic Greens AG1. If you're listening, Gordon, just shoot me a DM on Twitter. I'll be happy to oblige. In all seriousness though, you guys have got to try Athletic Greens AG1. It's an excellent way to fill in nutritional gaps, which everybody has. 75 high quality vitamins, minerals and whole food source nutrients. There's prebiotics and probiotics, digestive enzymes, and adaptogens to help you cope with stress. Such a simple habit, 1 scoop once a day, every day. It's that simple. Athletic Greens AG1 will have you feeling and performing your best. And if it doesn't, there's a 90-day money-back guarantee. So what's the worst that can happen? Plus, if you use the link at the pinned comment or head to athleticgreens.com/SMR, get yourself a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2. Here are what some viewers of the channel have to say about their experience with AG1. Day 30 of AG1 and I cannot explain to you how much better I'm feeling. My social anxiety is so much better. I did not expect to help so much, but it has. I feel energized, ready to do things. I've been staying on top of things for the first time in years. If you haven't tried it already, truly try it. I was a skeptic. I did not at all believe it was going to help, and it has, significantly. AG1 is totally amazing. No more ibuprofen, no more leg cramps, much less back pain, feeling better and more energy. This is great, and I'm only 2 weeks into AG1. It really works. Thanks, Stephen. You're welcome. I noticed 3 things with AG1. My chronic heartburn is gone. My digestion is more regular. I have more alertness, and I wake up with a raging heart on every morning. I hope you're putting it to good use, my friend. Just received my 2nd pouch of AG1 and find improvement in short-term memory and not napping during the day as I did pre-AG1. Worth the price. Regarding AG1, okay, so I couldn't ignore all the talk. It's been about 3 months now and I've literally stopped drinking coffee because of it. Not even intentionally, I just don't need it now. Strange. Not that strange, AG1 will meaningfully boost energy, at least in my own experience. That's the biggest benefit I noticed almost immediately. So what are you waiting for? Head to athleticgreens.com/SMR or use the link in the pinned comment. Start your daily health habit now and let me know how you're feeling in a few weeks. If for some strange reason you don't get the results you're expecting, there's a 90-day money-back guarantee, so what do you got to lose? Oh, that's right. Nothing. So here's hoping Gordon can start feeling and performing his best. Spend a few weeks coming up with some better material and maybe appear back in the finance media with some slightly less ridiculous arguments. Here's hoping. And in a shocking turn of events, I actually said some new things about Tesla today over on Patreon, including why I think Gordon really says what he says about Tesla. If you're not a member, you can join with the card in the corner or the link in the pinned comment, and I'll see you over there. Love ya.